Welcome back to the Amid the Mess podcast, where we talk all about how to do the healthy behaviors in life, like exercise and diet, amid the chaos and busyness that is life with a family and a busy job. So today I spoke with Sean Searight, who is a physiotherapist who spent most of his years working in the military as a military physio. Now, however, he is helping the general population optimize their movement using a new concept called Resistance PilatesChi. He's been a physio for 29 years and he is so experienced in rehabilitation. We chatted all about back pain, shoulder stiffness, sitting behind a desk, and what the best movements and exercises are that you can do at your desk to help your posture, your spine, your shoulders, your headaches, your tension headaches. So there is so much juicy stuff in this interview, and I really enjoyed my chat with Sean. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy it too. Why do so many of us have pain in our back, shoulders and knees?
Well, interesting question. And certainly from research and certainly from my perspective, which I agree with, we're a very sedentary population nowadays. We are now, I don't call us all Homo sapiens, I call us Homo sedens, the seated man in Latin. So many of us are now sat down doing busy jobs, working from home, computer work, looking through our phones. And unfortunately, that sort of constitutes to a sort of fixed poor posture, which can get chronically worse over the years. So you get things like tight hip flexors as you sit down too much.
And the hip flexors are, for those of us not versed in anatomy.
So they're coming from your sort of pelvis down in front of your thigh, and they shorten because we're sat down. So some people can't sort of extend their hip when they sort of walk or go running as much because it's all tight there. Rowers, for example, have quite tight hip flexors as well.
Yeah.
So
hip flexors is when you lift up your knee.
Yeah.
That kind of making your knee go up into a right angle with your hip.
That's it.
When in a sitting position.
Correct.
Your body kind of stays almost in that little sitting position.
Yeah. And the more we sit there, the more we sort of make that muscle shorter.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we sit on our backside, so our gluteus muscles, the big muscle called gluteus maximus, commonly known as glutes, they get very weak as well. So we get sort of flabby glute muscles, which don't help extend when we go walking, extend the hip. So we have problems with that as well. And then our backs get weaker while we're sat down for long periods of time. And our shoulders become slumped. And we become in this sort of like a C shape. So you get a spine here. So as a physio, we use spines a lot. So a C shape means this is the sort of head end here and the neck, the bottom of the head, the skull. And what tends to happen as we sit down for long periods of time, our spine sort of round like that over a period of time. And then to compensate for that, our necks will then try and go the other way so we can keep ourselves, looking at the screen. And then we end up with all these tight muscles in the back of our neck. We wonder why we have aches and pains, headaches as well, quite commonly, and very weak, tight muscles around our back, tight shoulder muscles, which we'll go into later as well. So all of this is a compound sort of build-up of aches and pains, and people feel it when they're sort of, when they move position and they stretch off, they realise actually it's the stretch they need. And then, of course, there's the strength component that we're going to go into as well, how to sort of correct all of that. But yeah, I would say that's the main problem. Of course, there's injuries as well for back, shoulders and knees. Athletes, old injuries as well will represent themselves like an old back. There are 8 million Britons at the moment who have back pain, annually. So It really is quite a lot of people. And they're just the ones that are reported, not the ones quietly suffering at home who don't want to see the doctor. So, yeah, it's a big deal.
It is. It is such a big deal. And as you were speaking, I kind of started thinking about my back and I started slowly just sitting up a little taller.
Yes, and I'll probably start slouching as we
Yeah.
come into this and slide down the chair.
So all of this is said with so much compassion to everyone listening, because I think desk-based, computer-based jobs are the predominant type.
Yeah,
Really, that
yeah.
so many of us sit 9 to 5 behind a computer, and we have to.
Yes.
No getting away from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. And in a little bit, I really want to go into the what can we do. We can't stop our work, but we
No.
can do specific exercises that will help rebalance this tightening and this weakening.
Yes.
But
Yes.
before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you. So, as a physiotherapist, what is your approach to exercise? Have you got a specific angle that you like to take?
Yes, I've always been keen on function. So most physiotherapists will sort of try and get people to be functional. So everyone has a different level of function. For example, an athlete will have a high level of function where you need to get them back to that sport they're doing. And of course, I'll go into it later, but I was a military physio, so the function required to get soldiers, sailors, and airmen fit to do their role was quite a high one. So it always required, how can we get them fit to do their job? And with the population group, the wider population group outside the military, is how can we get people to be able to do their DIY, do their housework without pain, and just go about their normal activities of daily living? So
Lift our children.
yeah, absolutely. All of
They're
these
heavy.
things. Absolutely. It's these things that just go on daily with all of us, whether we're emptying the dishwasher, lifting up children, going up and down the stairs. And we need to be fit to do those jobs. And as we age, we sort of lose those skills, and we lose some muscle mass as well.
Yeah.
We lose about 10% of our muscle mass, every 10 years if we're not very active, which is quite serious. So it's important for function. And that requires things like strength, flexibility, agility, balance. So I like to have an exercise that I can put in there that incorporates all of those skills. And that's really my driver for being a physiotherapist and managing those injuries within the limitations that people have.
Yes, absolutely. So you want a form of movement that combines all of these aspects.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes, and I find a lot of people don't really. They focus on one plane of movement. They'll sort of go into the gym and just look at their biceps and do biceps work, but they won't sort of do back work, or they won't do multi-directional work or some balance work. And if we can have an exercise that does all of that in one, then that's great. And that's really what I'm trying to achieve.
Absolutely. And I find especially balance. So for me, coming from a yoga background, I've developed, some online stuff as well. And just a balance themed class just isn't sexy. I don't think anyone clicks on the balance class, but it's so important.
Yes. And there's a lot of exercises out there at the moment. I mean, the world has gone, very, very crazy exercise-wise since COVID. And we have so many choices out there. I mean, yoga and Pilates are very, very popular. The ones that everyone knows. They're the sort of go-to exercises. But there's a lot more out there. And as we discuss, where we're going with exercise, I can obviously talk about more of other options that are out there to supplement what's going on as well.
Yes.
And more functional.
Yes. And so that does bring me on to your specific concept. So I am aware you have developed Pilatchi, which is a mix of Pilates and Tai Chi.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
So explain a little bit about what that is and what brought you to develop this concept.
Well, Pilatchi is, as it sounds, it's a fusion of using the strength of Pilates, which has a strength component to it, but at the same time fusing the slow flow moves of Tai Chi. Now, it's definitely not Pilates. So any Pilates purists out there will say, hang on a minute, it's not Pilates. It is not Pilates. And the purists, many of them do Tai Chi, will say it's not Tai Chi, and it certainly is not Tai Chi. But it's a fusion of the two of them using resistance bands that are secure to your hands and feet. So I've never come across a set of resistance bands in my day as a physio where you can actually freely move with bands attached safely to your hands and to your feet.
They always kind of dig in, don't they? They always kind of dig into your hands when you're holding them.
Yes. So what we've got here is, so what is it? I mean, it's an apparatus that we use to promote this movement. So we can do multi-directional movement with it. So we have a glove here where rather than holding onto that band that you say goes through your hand like that, you grip it, or you hold a bar. And you grip the whole time. Some people might have a weak grip while they're lifting up and it slips out of their hand, or they're holding the end of it, slips out of their hand. So what I've done is I've designed a glove, which you can put on. There's nothing out here at all like it. You put a glove on, and then you can just wrap it around here.
Yeah.
And you're now free to move with your hand. You can put it on the floor, you can put it on the wall, and you don't have to grip onto anything and worry about it snapping out of your hand. So that's something I've invented. You just clip on and off different levels of resistance band onto the hook here, which makes it so much agile. And then the other end's attached to your foot through a running loop here, and you just tighten it around your foot, underneath the foot here. And you can actually move around and dance around with it, do kickboxing, shadow boxing, whatever you want. But Pilatchi promotes these moves using this apparatus, using slow mind body, concentric, eccentric movements with time under tension. So that means we're holding, so let's say I'm holding the move up here. I'm going up very slowly and I'm coming down very slowly at a sort of Tai Chi pace.
Yes.
And therefore we're putting the muscles under more tension, which creates more muscle growth over time because it's putting tensile stresses in those muscles. And it recruits more muscle fibers to actually activate that area. So rather than doing quick eccentric, concentric work up and down like this, we're actually doing a very slow flow move. And that's a really beneficial way to not only get flexible by twisting around doing different movements, but also by getting stronger.
Yeah, fantastic. And I find it such an interesting concept to not to have the pressure on the wrists all the time, because there are certain groups of people who have more wrist issues. So, and as a physiotherapist, I'm curious actually to ask you, I have heard from my mum friends a lot. So after giving birth, a lot of women, not randomly, but they get real wrist problems. And do you know the physiological reason for this?
I'm not an expert in women's health, but I do know that postnatal and obviously prenatal as well, the joints can get quite soft.
Yeah, more flexible.
So, more flexible, and that allows the pelvis to expand. So a lot of the joints they just get softer, and therefore you're going to find that you're going to get more pain in some of these joints that you're not used to exercising before your term started. So I mean, you've got to return to exercise slowly, not overload yourself. Maybe do some exercises without resistance to start off with, and then build in the resistance as you recover from that. And it's the same with back pain. You get this chronic back pain and pelvic pain as well, and that can be a cause of some suppleness in those joints. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just because of the hormonal effect of the birth and all that stuff.
Exactly, and things are just readjusting, and you just need to allow time for that to recover and build into it, gradually, and not dive in there straight away. Yeah.
It's just amazing. Almost a lot of people I know have told me, and after my first baby, I also had really real wrist problems. So I mean, I do think it comes back because I do a lot of yoga with pressure on my hands, and over time, I do find my wrists get strong again. So it's also a positive message to say out there for the people listening. Yeah. Practice does bring strength back.
It does, so long as you do it progressively and you don't rush it. And something like the glove there, I've actually been exercising quite a few people who have had arthritis of the wrist, or they've got weak grip strength from surgery.
Yeah.
And we're actually also using it for people who've had strokes because they
Oh,
can't grip.
yeah.
So they put a glove on, and they can now they're doing a trial now in the NHS with it. And they're
Great.
finding wheelchair users can attach the other end of the band to a wheelchair and start doing some exercises, without holding on to anything, which is a real game changer.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Super duper. That's so great. Really good. But I'd like to go back a bit about specific areas in the body because, as you
Yeah.
said, back pain is a huge problem for so many of us.
Yeah.
And I do like to focus this podcast on the very busy working parents who want to do the healthy stuff, but find that they're limited because of the messiness and craziness of life with children. So for those crazy busy parents with
Yes.
back pain because they've been lugging around heavy children and not spending any time on their own bodies and exercise, what specific exercises would be useful for them for their backs?
Well, one of the most important exercises for a back problem or for backs to keep them strong is they like to be moved, and they like to be, certainly walking, in my opinion, it's so easy to do. If you can find time to walk, even if it's a 10-15 minute walk to the shop to go and get some milk, or just to walk the dog, or take your baby in a push chair and go somewhere, that is really important for you because you get your postural effects in there while you're doing it. You're getting your cardiovascular effects in there. You're getting a functional movement, which is walking. You're getting proprioception and a little bit of weight bearing as well. So walking is really, really important. If you don't have time to leave the house and things are just too much, then to try and pick an exercise at home that you're going to enjoy. Because if you're not going to enjoy it, you're not going to do it. So in your case, Yolanta, it might be yoga and say, right, well, I'm going to take 15 minutes out. Baby's going to be over on my side over there, quietly sleeping, but I'm going to get my mat out and do some yoga, some meditation. But I think yoga Pilates is very good. And what I'm offering is a Pilatchi move as well as another way to go forward. And we can talk about that later. Because it's about just doing something for 10 to 15 minutes a day to unwind. And if you can do it maybe 15 minutes in the morning, maybe 15 minutes in the afternoon, that is even better. If you can do that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but what about more specifically? Could you describe some specific things like, because we're always hunched forwards, are there particular movements that are the things people would need to focus on if they only had 10 minutes?
Yes. I mean, some people will just, you can either go on a foam roller where you put a foam roller on the floor and you can put your back on the back of that. Funnily enough, I have a physio friend, now you mention it, who's actually created something called the balance wedge. And what that does is it's like a foam roller that's been cut at an angle. And you lie on that and you can just rest your spine on it and it'll just sink your spine back into shape. So that C-shaped spine we get as we sort of prolong our sit. You can lie on this sort of foam roller and it just slowly just straightens it out and takes away those aches and pains.
Yeah.
Hip flexor stretches where you just sort of kneel on the floor, put a cushion under your knee, and then kneel on the floor with your hip extended. And
So it's like a lunge, isn't it? Like one leg forward, one leg down in a lunge position.
In a lunge position, put that knee on a cushion when you're lunging and just feel that stretch. And what I like to do when I do that stretch is the leg I'm stretching, I'll try and lift the heel off the ground as well, because you'll get a bit of further stretch on a muscle attachment, which I won't bore you with the Latin name. But
bore us. Which one is it?
So it's called the rectus femoris. So it's actually attaches above the hip. And what that does is that stretches that final little bit of muscle above our hip as well, which is part of the hip flexor.
So rectus femoris is the really long quadricep muscle, is that right? Along the front of the thigh.
Yeah. And
over the hip as well.
So one of the four muscles is this muscle that comes up and joins above the hip just above the hip joint, and that's nice to stretch that little one out as well. And it goes over the capsule, which is what is underneath the hip muscles as well. So that's a nice stretch to do. And then we've got the usual sort of yoga ones where you're on the mat or the carpet and you're doing the yoga class called, I think it's Happy Cat, Angry Cat, where you arch your back and then you collapse it.
Cat cow, like cat back and a cow back. Yes.
That's
Inhale, exhale. Yes. Yeah, great.
Very good for that. When you do that, try and remember to get your shoulder blades back while you're actually doing the exhale, so you can really, and then stick your backside out, and that gives you a lovely curve in your back to get away those aches and pains after sitting down for a long period of time. Lots of neck stretching as well, pulling your head from one side to the other is really good for you to do as well. And then the Pilates users will do Pilates again, because that takes care of a lot of postural aches and pains as well. Yeah. So, so lots you can do in the house.
Yeah, some really great examples, you know.
Yeah.
You could just roll out your mat and do a few of those simple postural moves and stretches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're being interrupted, you can still just, you don't have to leave the house. So you don't worry about, the dog being around you or the baby wanting a bit more attention. You can at least snatch 15 minutes of time if you can. Yeah. Especially if you've done a long bit of work. I mean, I would say every 2 hours at least, you want to get away from the desk and do something, even if it's just a few stretches, walking around.
Okay, so that would be a great tip. So thinking a bit beyond just having a baby and being at home, for people working at an office all day long.
Yeah.
Maybe working from home all day long, every 2 hours to get up, do those hip flexor stretches, do a bit of a cat-cow.
Yeah.
Neck roll, shoulder to shoulder.
Yes, and if you can't do it in the office, like you can't, get your mat out in the office, then that's understandable. But you can, try and walk around, maybe offer everyone a cup of tea. And it's good to do that as well, because in the workplace, if you are in an office, of course, it's good to communicate with other people while you're doing that. And it just gets you out walking and doing something to help everyone else, really. So that's a good way to get out of the chair, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I like to lean on a chair as well that has a rigid back. Sometimes I find these office chairs have got wheels on them. Mm-hmm. You can't really lean back into it. So if you've got a kyphotic back, i.e. a back, the C-shaped back, which is quite rounded here, which a lot of have, I like to stretch it off. So I sort of lean back against the chair and I sort of go like that and tilt my back into it. And that's really important. But if you're in a wheelie chair, you can't do that. So I quite like a rigid chair I can sort of push my back into. It's not going to wheel backwards, so I'm leaning on it. And I sometimes put my hands behind my neck and do this as well. Okay,
so let's just explain to people listening. So you kind of had your hands behind your back clasped, and you put your head right back and you just kind of arching your whole back.
And you're pushing your back into a structure in the back of the chair there, like that. So, and then I can just rotate slightly to this side, and I can rotate that side as well, and that rotates your thoracic spine.
And the thoracic spine is the top part of it.
So your neck is from here to there in your first sort of 7 vertebra, and then underneath here we got the other vertebra, which is your thoracic vertebra, and then lower down we have the lumbar. But the thoracic vertebra is built to be rotated left and right, so they get quite stiff, especially when our shoulders are a bit hunched like that, doing work on our phones or whatever we're doing. It's good to get your back back like that, hands behind your head, and just rotate left. Take your head with you this way and this way, and then lean into the back of the chair. Make sure it's safe. It's not going to roll backwards, but a sturdy chair, I think, is a good thing to have.
That's amazing. Actually, just doing that right now feels good. Yeah. I'm going to add this into my yoga routine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe my warm up when I do my in-person class. Yeah. Fantastic.
So I think it's a great way to just, sometimes we're so busy, we just don't have time to leave the job we're doing because we've got to get a deadline in. So we only have time to maybe do some, what I call seated exercises like those are. And then if we can get up and just, move around and make a cup of coffee or, put something on the printer or something, or go around the room and say, who wants a cup of coffee, and interact. That might take 10 minutes, but at least you're actually getting out from the position, it clears your head as well.
Yes.
Because mentally we're quite sort of focused. I mean, they say that, so you also say if you're really busy and you're doing something with more 40 minutes, then you're sort of quite maxed out. You almost need a rest to go and do something different, to sort of just have a bit of a break, recharge your brain, come back and redo something. So if you're really busy, you know, you may want to do it more frequently.
Yeah. And it also does lots of favors for your back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Now, great. There's some really good actionable tips there for everyone. So I would like to move on to shoulder pain. So as a caveat, or just as a preamble, as a yoga teacher, I often get questions of what can I do for my tight shoulders? And everyone's really feeling like, oh, they're so tight and I can't move them. So I would love to hear your take. Well, first of all, a little bit more maybe about why is this such a problem and what can people do to either avoid or solve it?
Well, again, the majority of shoulder problems will come from poor posture. So we'll come on to that in a minute, because that is the lion's share of the problems, of the causes. But of course, then we have things like, because the shoulder joint is a very mobile joint, it's got a very shallow socket where the head of the shoulder joint goes in here, whereas the hip joint's a lot deeper, less injuries with it. But because the shoulder is designed for mobility, it's a shallow socket. So therefore, it moves around a bit more. So it is a bit more prone to injury, certainly for those who have predisposed to dislocations. So you can have shoulder dislocations. And then you can have impingement problems, or now known as rotator cuff related shoulder pain. And bursitis and all the other things. There's multiple ways you can get shoulder injuries because it is a mobile joint and therefore it's prone to injuries. But predominantly, most shoulder aches and pains that just sort of come along, or weakness, is from poor posture. So we've got poor posture. We're in this sort of C-shaped position. We're hunched over typing. So what happens? We've got a muscle imbalance problem. We have the pec muscles here across our chest, and they get short and tight. So they're pulling our shoulders in. And the more we're doing that, it might be on our phone when we finish work, scrolling, doom scrolling. And then you're like that. And then you just realize, you wonder why, hang on a minute, I've got some aches. And then your neck starts aching above it. So it comes with a bit of neck ache as well. And then because these muscles are tight, the muscles at the back here are weak as well, and long. And we've got this sort of position that becomes almost fetal, flexed. And we've got to try and get out of that position and again into this extended position, which is one reason I really advocate when I do my exercises with the Pilatchi, is to say you've got to be using extension, because we all grip and we do lots of flexor work here and biceps curls, but actually we neglect our back and going into extension. So it's really important to do that, to stretch these muscles out here, which are the pecs. The
pec muscles, chest.
Yeah. Latissimus dorsi, another muscle that comes from our hips all the way into our shoulder here. They get tight and insert in the shoulder, so they get tight. And trapezius muscles right at the back here, these muscles where people go in and massage right at the back here. Yeah, and the tops of the shoulders as well, a little bit. Area, they go right into the base of your skull. So the trapezius muscles actually insert into what we call the occiput area here. So they come all the way down like a diamond shape and then end up sort of near the middle of your thoracic spine. It's a huge muscle.
Yes.
And that gets very short and tight. And
that's the classic kind of shoulders going up to your ears muscle, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And if people go in there and massage your shoulder traps muscles, you'll find these trigger points. And if someone pushes into the trigger, I treat a lot of back pain and shoulder pain by trying to lengthen these muscles here, which are caused by poor posture. And I go in there and I release the trigger points, and then we do the correction exercises and strengthening exercises. So these guys going to the neck, back of the neck, are big culprits for shoulder aches and pains going down here as well. 'Cause we're like this. I'm exaggerating,
Yes.
but we don't want to
Shoulders
be like that.
up.
We want to be more like that. Shoulders down and
Soft
back.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And headaches come from it as well, so not only with the neck, everything, don't forget, a lot of things are connected together, like the connective tissue, the muscles. So the neck is also involved, and we get these tension headaches as well.
Yeah.
They come from poor posture. So the whole thing is interrelated, lumbar spine, thoracic spine, shoulders, neck, headache.
Yes. So those classical shoulders up, the tightness in the upper trapezius. What could people do about that? That's such a classic thing. So what could people do?
Well, a lot of people will try and find someone to trigger point their shoulders out. So they've got a partner going to trigger them out.
Massage, yes.
A massage around there. Or they use these tools here called, funny enough, I have one in my room here because I do use it, called a back knobber. And what it does is this goes into the trigger point and you just pull it down there. And so you're pulling it into the shoulder trigger point area, and then I rotate the head while I'm doing that with it as well. And then you can do the other side, so it's allowed to go around your head, and you can actually hear your neck crick when you do that as well.
So I'm just going to explain what this looks like. This is like a big plastic self-massage device that you can massage the top of your neck with.
Yeah, and it just comes in two halves. You just join it up, and that goes around larger people, and this goes around smaller people, and you can just trigger point here, trigger point around your legs, all sorts of things. So I use this a lot for trigger pointing that area. Stretching, obviously you do this sort of stretch to get the neck and the trapezius muscle stretched by having the shoulder drop down, okay, and then you can just tilt your head very slightly from where it came from, and you'll feel it right down the side of the neck for those scalene muscles which come down the front of your neck and around the side. Yeah. And and you just let everything relax. And if you tilt your head slightly from where it came from, it's a much more powerful stretch. And then this way as well. Now, some people may struggle with these exercises, and obviously you're going to have to get medical advice about it. But, if you've got serious arthritis of the neck, you might actually make things worse on that side. So obviously,
if you have like a history of neck injury, arthritis.
Yeah, and you've had some surgery there. Yeah.
Yes. But if you don't have those things, then a little ear to the shoulder, ear to the other shoulder. Yeah,
and just tilt the head slightly from where it came from, like that. Get your hand over the top of the head, and you can really feel a big difference in these trapezius muscles. So that's a great way to do. And then, of course, you've got things like the cobra. You can get into the cobra position as well.
Which is like a back arching position. You're on the ground, elbow under your shoulders, and then kind of...
Yeah, and you're lying on your stomach and you're just doing like a press up, but your pelvis is on the floor. Let your shoulders collapse at the top, and that's a nice way to stretch things off lower down as well. Yeah, and it's good for your low back as well if you've been seated down for a long time. Yeah,
so often I think, the way I think about it with my yoga stuff is you find the balance, the opposite of what you've been doing all day.
Yeah,
you've been rounded all day, so you almost try to find the arched position. Yeah, just to
counteract it.
The shift in posture that happened with all the rounding, sitting down all day.
And what tends to happen, we're busy, we finish a busy day, we can't prioritise, because a lot of people make this mistake when they have good intentions, then they get busy, then there's other things to do, and they don't do their exercises, and what they'll do is they'll go to their mobile phone, and that's a way of relaxing. And of course, they're just compounding it all by doing this. I mean, I've been guilty of it. We've all done it. So
I know, and your brain is so frazzled from work. All you want to do is switch off and doom scroll, or look at the news, or
catch up on your social chats.
So much compassion to everyone out there. No judgment. But the best thing actually would be not to go into that rounded sitting position, but to do something in a more of an extended, arched, and maybe a little bit of twisting.
Nice back contact with the back of the chair with your back and your scapula, your shoulder blades, and all these sort of things help. So little tips like that.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, when we were talking about backs, I forgot to ask one question. I'm curious. So there is a lot of stuff out there, maybe in culture, people will say, "Oh, be careful for your back," kind of. People say, in the language people use, it might seem like the back is quite a weak thing and fragile, that we have to, be careful with your back.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about that kind of language people might use?
Well, it's a mix of good and bad. So I would say the good thing about it is when you're using it with the advice professionally, i.e., be careful about lifting. So we know when a lot of us now, even when we're working, in desk jobs, we might have a health and safety sort of annual sort of mandatory training thing where you're all taught how to correctly lift things or not to lift things. So all of that is very good advice and saying you mustn't lift. Some people in the medical profession, we shouldn't be lifting patients. We should be using other apparatus to help us shift and move patients and transfer them. And that's, that's in earlier days that didn't really happen, but now it's a big deal. You've got to do that. So in many ways it's a good thing that we're getting this advice on how to move correctly, how to lift, how not to twist around lifting heavy things, all of it, how to get people to share the load and all of it. The bad thing is there's a lot of scaremongering going on with it, and that's the problem. And I think people have a back problem. It's not they say about 80% of the adult population through their life will experience a back problem. I think if you're on that 20%, you're really lucky. I would probably call it a higher number. And they're worried about going back to doing what they should be doing. Now, of course, there's a period of time where you have to recover from the back pain. You have to do the exercises, you have to do the rehab and all the advice the medical team give you. But there comes a stage where you shouldn't be frightened of moving the back. You should allow proper movements. But again, it's all about progressive build up to slowly, maybe regaining some flexion, i.e. bending forward in a chair. So you're supported in a chair rather than standing, and then build it up to flexing forward and standing. And then getting the back stronger. A lot of us get problems with our muscles because it's weak.
Yeah.
And in many ways, we say as physios, a lot of us are quite sort of bland about it, but, weakness equals pain. So we've got to get the strength back so we're not subject to just the joints hanging off each other. We need the muscle structure around it to support those joints. So we've got to get the back strong again. So things like, eventually you're going to go back to things like planking and things like that. But in the early stages, just walking around, slowly learning how to bend forward, slowly learning how to extend. Of course, we're going to use our hips and our glutes to try and bend down and lift something heavy like a squat position because we've been told how to do that correctly. But we mustn't be frightened about bending forward and picking things off the floor.
Yeah.
With just, a lot of people just keep their backs totally straight, lift something light off the floor like a pencil.
Yeah.
And they're worried about flexing their back. And then they wonder why they have a really stiff back when they're older, because they're not actually regaining that movement they're built to have.
Yes, because in my understanding, from my own background, the back stays healthy if it has movement in all the ways, the flexion, the extension, the twisting, the side to side. And to be able to keep all of that, you need to do all of that.
You need to move.
Isn't it? Yes.
And backs like movement. They need to be moved, and they like to be used to their available range. So, with the back here again, we've got the lumbar spine, which is the main culprit we're talking about here. And the lumbar spine is designed to bend forward and open the joints up here and lean
So the
backwards.
very lower joints just above your hips for everyone listening.
Yeah, so we've got 5 of them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so they're here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're all designed to do mainly bending forward and extending. We can also do some side bending with it as well, which is good because that creates it. And as you say, what this does is it creates the more synovial fluid, which is the fluid in the joint spaces here, to keep the whole thing lubricated and going.
Like engine oil, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it reduces inflammation as well, movement as well. And it's really good to keep that going. So if you've got an old disc or a bit of a facet joint problem or a problem with the joint, it's important once you've gone through that acute stage of pain and you've all settled down to get moving again as much as you can. And that's the problem with this. And we've got to strengthen it as well. So lots of core work as well around there, where we're using glutes. I call it the ring of steel, i.e. your glutes, the back, and then you've got this ring of steel that circles the pelvis from your glutes here, being a strong muscle, to your
bum
core
muscles.
bum muscles here, to your deep abdominal muscles here. And that's what I call your ring of steel. If you can get a good solid platform, then you've got a strong back. You've got a platform where you can use levers above it, like shoulders and legs, because you've got a strong platform. Imagine a crane, where a crane is got a heavy lever on top of it, but if the base of the crane wasn't strong and sturdy, that crane would just topple over or break. It's really important to keep the core, that mid area here, the ring of steel,
I like it.
really strong.
Yeah, so that's the glutes and the deep lower core muscles.
Yes.
Kind of the ring of steel around your pelvis and hips.
Yeah. And that's an entirely different subject to discuss, because there'll be lots of people, real specialists, who do core activity and things like that. But in simple layman terms, it doesn't require a lot of a huge amount of exercise. It's about re-educating those muscles to make sure they are activating and they're working before you add the levers to it. And that's really important. And certainly things like after postnatal, you lose some of that muscle, and things like bladder control, and it's all incorporated into the same sort of ring of steel, the pelvic muscles, and those core muscles as well.
Yes, so interesting and so important.
Yeah.
Does your exercise that you developed, Pilatchi, does that work the ring of steel?
Yes, because we're using levers. So because the whole thing came about when I was treating soldiers, and what it does is they wanted more. So we did Tai Chi initially without any bands at all, and they said, "Can we increase this? Can we make this harder? How do we, So I thought, do we hold on to weights? And I thought, no, because then we get rid of that Tai Chi sort of component where we can have a free hand gripping. I thought, do we hold on to bands? No. So I designed bands to go literally wrapped around the hand. Like tied a knot in it around there and around your foot. And of course, there was the danger of the knot coming undone, things like that. So I then designed the apparatus, which we've gone through. But we're using those levers now, where you are with Tai Chi's, because they wanted something harder, where you've got to engage core, so you can add that lever onto it, whether it's at the front or whether you're rotating round to the side like this. You have to engage this to make the whole thing easier. And I say
this, and this is the core.
So tighten tum and bum. I say tighten tum and bum, just gently, so no one knows you really have to do it. You don't have to do a massive sort of movement to go grip your teeth and like that. It's just a subtle movement, almost like just trying to get a next button on the jean, get that top button on the jean done up. And then just add those levers to it. So the levers are coming out to the front, the levers coming outside, and this time they've got resistance bands attached to them. So you definitely need core to do resistance Pilatchi.
Yeah, very interesting. Good to hear what sparked your idea of creating this apparatus, that you were working with, was it military, were you rehabbing them?
Yes, so some quite serious injuries we had in the military. From whether it's primary care or when I worked at Headley Court, we had a lot of pretty bad injuries there.
I can imagine. Yes.
And these guys wanted something different, and so I came up with this over 3 to 5 years ago, and just devised it, and we're still using them to rehabilitate people where we can. And now it's not just service personnel I'm helping to rehabilitate. I'm doing it now with the general population group.
Which
gives me a lot of pleasure. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I would love to keep it real for all of us crazy busy people. So as I understand it, you have children. They're a little bit older now, aren't they?
Yes.
But if you can think back to the time when they were, I say, under 10, or maybe even young teenagers, when we were working really busy, difficult to find any time for your own exercise. But being an exercise professional or physiotherapist, you know how important it is. How did you fit it in personally?
Well, when they were younger, when they were sort of infants, I would say, before 10, I was at university. So I had my son just before university, and then I had my daughter during second year at university. So I was already a physiotherapist. So I also thought, okay, I'm learning how to be a physio. I thought, well, I need to include the children with the exercises. So in those, we have the seat on the back of the bike. So I put them on the back of the bike and get my cardiovascular exercise that way. So I didn't leave mum with the children. I said, right, well, I'll take my son for a bike ride, put him on the back, or we put them on the backpack on the back, and did that. So, and then as they got older, we did swimming together as well, if we could do that. But of course, a lot of we were quite an active family, so we were quite lucky to have that sort of that opportunity to go and do some exercise, whether it's swimming, cycling, walking. When we were really busy, and they were busy as well, and we just had ourselves, we couldn't leave the house. I would use resistance bands because I knew about them, and I know that they're a great way because they're portable. You didn't need to go to a gym, and of course, as a student, you can't really afford a gym or a heavy gym membership. So I did my exercises at home, and that involved things like farmers' carries, where you pick up a couple of weights and you just walk around the garden holding on weights, or use some resistance bands to do flies or shoulder press. So I did all that while the children were, if they were busy doing something in the house, I would do that alongside them. And then the children watch you as well and think, oh, so they're quite active children now as a result of it. It's
really good. Yeah, I think often people feel guilty for. I know a lot of mums and even dads I speak to feel guilty, like, oh, I'm now spending the time on myself. I should be playing with my children. But like you said, if you are that example, they're like, oh, dad's doing some exercise. And I think over time they internalize that and they think, oh, that's maybe something I would want to try.
Yes,
fantastic.
And then walking, lots of walking. And I think it's really important for that relationship with your children as well. So when you're walking, they're a bit older and you can communicate with them. It's nice to have that moment where you can bond with them as well. So it's important to do that as well.
Yes.
And if you can do it while you're exercising, well, that's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, I have a dream of our ours is still very young, but I do want to go jogging with our eldest at some point. But he's only 3.5, so it's a bit early for that.
It is, but you've got you've got the good years to come on the exercise front. It's all waiting for you.
Yes.
So no excuses. You've got to do it. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Oh yes, I'm already looking forward to it. Whenever I go for a little jog and I come back really sweaty, I say, "Look, Mummy's sweaty. I've been exercising." I'm trying to, and my husband rolls his eyes. He's like, "Oh yeah, there you go."
There we go. Yeah, and then your children will become like you when you're older and just go, "Oh, yeah, I learned that from Dad, or I learned that from Mum," and that's really good. And then they become yoga ninjas.
Hopefully, that's the plan. That's the plan. All right. Well, again, another keeping it real question. So, you've given us such great advice, great tips. You're really knowledgeable. You're clearly motivated to be active. But if you don't mind sharing, what is one of your imperfections? It could be an exercise, or it could be in any kind of area of life.
I think one of my imperfections is I would say administration. I'm not great at administration. I find it rather boring to do administration. So you don't want to look around this desk where I'm working. It's a nightmare. It is a mess.
Well, that's very on brand with my podcast. So you are amid the mess.
I am all the time. There's receipts over here which I can't be bothered to put in from the business. There's papers over there. It is a mess. And I'm not great with admin, and my filing system's a mess. All this modern way of filing. And again, it requires to be sat at the computer for longer to try and file everything, be organised.
Yes.
So I sort of leave those things and then it gets worse. So the longer you leave it, it gets worse. So that is, I'm afraid, one of my imperfections.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
That's all right.
We're all human beings. We all have areas that we are amazing at, and then areas that are a bit more tricky. So, and that's the whole point of the show. I want everyone to realize we are all human, and we don't have to be perfect.
No,
we
absolutely
can
not.
do the stuff amid the mess. That's the whole point.
And sometimes things are more important, so the mess can stay.
Yes.
And we can, it's more important that, later on this evening I go down and I spend some time with my wife, and I'll worry about the mess the next day. And then if that doesn't happen, I'll do it the following day.
Yeah, you choose physical activity and connection over perfectly tidy desk.
Yeah, it's about priorities, and I sometimes put this priority always at the back.
Yeah, no, I get you. I'm quite similar. Hence the name of the podcast.
Yes.
But no, this has been such a great conversation. I want to finish off with another question. How can our listeners find out more about Pilatchi and maybe even get their hands on some bands themselves? And can they follow any instructional videos if they're curious?
Yeah, so I've got a website called Resistance PilatesChi, and that's PilatesChi.com. So resistancepilateschi.com. And then on the website, there's some workouts pages you can go to in the menu. And there's examples there of how you can do calm mind body exercises. I think there's a 5-minute, 6-minute, 20-minute, and an hour.
Great times.
Of how to, good to do it. So, and that's all under calming music. So you can do that at home, and that's really good to follow on the YouTube channel. So that is connected to my YouTube channel, Resistance PilatesChi. And then we've got some aerobic exercises for those who feel they're fitter. We're going to be focusing on aerobic a little bit more this year, those who've got a bit more energy. So that's on the website and the YouTube channel. And then Instagram, of course, if people want to find me on Instagram, there's a bit more of a sort of billboard of what we're doing out there and how to find us there. And there's a shop on the channel as well. If you want to look at buying some resistance bands and follow those videos, just go to the shop page, and it's an e-commerce website, and order your bands from there and do them at home. And just follow the videos and do them at home, and we'll be building content over time as well. So that'll get busier and busier as we build into it. So that's how to find me and have a go.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, everyone give it a try, and especially those who feel like the wrists are a little bit on the tender side. This is a really good way of doing upper body work without lots of stress on your wrists.
I think so, and I think the glove is a very good thing to use because of the wrist pain and the worry about dropping bands because you might have weak wrists, and obviously the foot strap allows you. Sometimes, more importantly, you're worried about the band slipping out from under your foot. So that's really important that you feel you can exercise without worrying about bands coming off your feet or your hands.
Nice.
And then you can do all these things I'm talking about, which is extension, thoracic rotation round, slow, calm moves, and put it with some calming music on. Yeah. So one way to chill out amid the mess. Just calm.
Chill out, or you can even do some more higher intensity or more aerobic stuff, which is also coming on your channel, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Yeah.
Super. I'll put all those links in the show notes so people can easily find your website, your YouTube and Instagram on there.
Great, so, That'd be brilliant. And I hope you have time to do your exercises.
I have done a couple of videos. Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Very interesting. Definitely. It felt like I never really worked the muscles in my chest so much. And I did feel afterwards like, I've worked my chest muscles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it does chest, and you can do things with the legs as well where you squat down low with it. So it's not just all about the arms. Yes. It's about everything else.
It's whole body.
Compound exercises, which is what we as physios want to do. We want to do compound, functional, and if we can enjoy it and chill out at the same time, then that's a bonus.
Definitely,
because a lot of people don't like exercising, so it's important you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. You should never punish yourself. Exercise is like a treat you're giving your body. really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look forward to it. Yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
time for that, so it's good we can get that in there. Yeah, brilliant.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. It's been a real pleasure, and maybe get you on sometime again in the future
lovely.
when you're further along the line with this product.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lanty. I will do that.
That was Sean Searight, everyone, and his new concept of Resistance PilatesChi. Very interesting. I have tried a couple of his videos and it is very interesting. You really feel the resistance in your shoulders and your thighs when you're kind of adding the bands and the squats. And I think it's a fascinating concept, and I really wish him all the best in promoting this. So if you're curious to give it a try, do go ahead and look at his website. And now, before you go, I would love it if you could just give me a little rating and review on your app of choice. So wherever you are, go to the little stars and just tap maybe the little 5 stars for me. Please, please. And if it's an Apple Podcasts, go ahead and leave a little review if you can. That would be amazing. It would really help my podcast to grow. So, without further ado, I will love you and leave you, and you will hear from me again next week with another podcast. So, bye-bye.